Good morning and welcome to this episode of Inside Texoma. I'm Melissa Kakarika. Today I'm joined by Barbara Pappas and Lynette Brown from the Iwo Jima Survivors Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
And today we're taking an inside look at the annual reunion that is held every year. So tell us a little bit about the history of the event, because this has been going on for quite a while.
Yes, the actual reunion started in 1991. I've been involved since 2000. Had no relation, to Iwo Jima Survivor, but just out of the goodness of our hearts, we do this every year. So it's a bittersweet moment to this be the final one. So we hope everyone comes out and enjoys it.
Yes, and this is the final one coming up February 12th through the 15th, simply because of veterans getting old. Is that the reason?
Yes. Unfortunately, they're dying by the hundreds. It's the greatest generation that we have, and they're going. So it's been a privilege for Wichita Falls to have them here every year.
And how did this end up being in Wichita Falls for so many years?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Cy Young created the reunion in '91, and he's from the Bowie area, so I think he started it and got it going here. They did one year go to Dallas, and all the survivors and everybody involved hated it. They didn't get treated as well as they do here in Wichita Falls. The community backs us wonderfully, Shepherd, Fort Sill, so everybody wanted to come back to Wichita Falls and have the reunions here. It's been great.
Tell us a little bit about what normally goes on at the reunion every year.
We start out, we do a trip to Fort Sill on Thursday, and then they come back and rest up. It's a long trip for them. Friday morning we have an opening ceremony with the general of the Shepherd Air Force Base, and of course the mayor welcomes them to the city. From there we board onto a bus and we tour Shepherd, and we have a nice lunch with the Shepherd Elementary students, and they usually have a program for the veterans and the attendees. We then return and get ready for the Great Mavericks barbecue that night.
That's the best. Everybody loves the Mavericks.
And this year the Mavericks band is going to be playing a little bit longer for us this year, and then of course we'll have the USO show. Saturday morning we will have actual reenactment of the flag raising, vintage uniforms, and then after that, Saturday afternoon we have a luncheon for them that are registered, and then we also go down to the History Museum of North Texas, which they enjoy. That night we prepare for the All Forces dinner, and that's a very special moment. We also pay tribute to the POWs and MIAs as well. And then we wrap everything up Sunday morning with the memorial service.
And so that will be going on again this year, February 12th through the 15th, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And the public is invited to come to these events. It's not just survivors.
Correct. We encourage folks to come out, one, because it is the last one, and to support these gentlemen, to hear their stories. We want to get their stories out to folks. Like Barb said, they are passing away in great numbers every year. So to hear their stories, they're starting to where they like to tell them. Saturday afternoon from about 1 to 3, we open up to have the public come in so they can talk to those folks. We have them down in the lobby at the Wellington. And then don't forget, at 3 o'clock is the flyover by the Texas Twisters.
And that's
So
a
the Missing
vintage
Man.
World War aviation group out of Fort Worth, and so they fly all the way in and do the Missing Man formation.
I want to talk a little bit about Iwo Jima and the battle itself. You see some video rolling here. I mean, talk about the importance and the history really here for people maybe who have forgotten what they learned in the history books.
or not in the history books anymore. It was very strategic that we take that island because it gave a landing base for our B-29 bombers. A lot of them were being crashed in the sea, and a lot of loss of life of American troops. So it was very strategic to take that island. We lost 6,820 Americans on that island in that 30 days, but we saved tens of thousands of American lives because we did take that island. That was the reason why we had to take that island.
People remember it as being also a very, bloody and gruesome part of World War II, right?
Correct. They thought the battle was going to last just a few days, and it lasted 30 days. The Japanese were trenched in very deep in tunnels of volcanic ash. So it was a great war that should not be forgotten.
And people always remember, of course, the most iconic image of the soldiers raising the flag. I feel like that's what everybody thinks of when they think of Iwo Jima.
Yeah, the infamous picture by Joe Rosenthal, that was the second flag raising. The first flag raising didn't get as much publicity as the second one. And the reason they did the second flag raise is because the Navy commander wanted that U.S. flag to take back to America. And so he took the flag off his ship and they ran it up again, and that's where you get the second flag raising.
Lynette, you mentioned some of the veterans are just now getting to a point where they can start to talk about it. What have you heard from them over the years at this reunion as far as their stories and their reflections?
We have a gentleman who's talked about he has grabbed some mementos from when they were on the island and still has a couple copies of things. One vision that we remember, probably our second year doing this, there was a table full of young Marines that had come from Fort Sill, and they were just sitting around it. You could have heard a pin drop, and there was one gentleman in the middle of all of them telling his story, and it was awesome. It was chilling just to see those kids so intent on listening to their stories. There's a lot of amazing stuff. Unfortunately, I'm so busy doing stuff all weekend that it's hard to sit down and talk to them. My husband loves to listen to the stories. You can never find him to help us because he's usually out listening to stories or playing cards with the guys. And we've all have several strong bonds of friendships and stuff through the years. So it's been an amazing time.
I imagine you just hear various different accounts, you know, through different eyes too, from each different veteran.
There's a lot of them that don't want to speak about the horror of the war because it was something that's still ingrained in them. But they know now at their age it's very important to tell their story or it's going to be lost. Cy Young, the founder, he was one that sat at the table with everyone standing around, and that was the first time he ever told his story in 60 years. The first time his family had never even heard of it. They really don't talk a lot about it, but they do now. So, but some will talk a little bit about how horrific it was, but a lot of them will steer away from that.
So obviously very important for people to come out and learn a little bit of history, right?
Yes.
Most definitely, yes.
You certainly can learn a lot from the veterans. You mentioned Cy Young. Now he's going to have some special honors at this year's event, right?
Correct.
Correct. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but we are going to make sure that he is honored and that he knows how important a role he played in creating this reunion so that, one, all the gentlemen could get together and tell their stories and be with each other and can relate to each other, and then two, for the public to hear their stories and get with them.
And then do we also have another recipient, honored guest, Herschel Woody Williams, I understand? Who's he?
Go ahead. That would be our Medal of Honor recipient. He is the last surviving MOH recipient of Iwo Jima, of which there was 27, and he will be here this year. He is a man who is 91 years old, I believe, this year. He is full of fire. He does anywhere from 100 to 120 events a year. He's just a very iconic person to be here, and we're excited to have him with us this year.
All right, well, we are going to talk a whole lot more about this reunion and what it means to our community and how the community has really come together for it every year. It's coming up on Inside Texoma. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Today we're taking an inside look at the final Iwo Jima reunion in Wichita Falls. The reunion is always a special time for those veterans, including Wichita Falls resident Bill English, who was a World War II pilot and Iwo Jima survivor. I sat down with Mr. English earlier this week to hear his story and get his take on the final reunion.
I was in college, a freshman. First semester was over when Pearl Harbor happened, and as soon as I had my next birthday, I signed up for the Air Force Reserve, requesting that I be a pilot, single-engine pilot, and so a few months later, they called us all up, those that were in reserves, and I was stationed at Shepherd Field out here for the first 30 days, 31 days, and then I went into pilot training, and I moved to various places over, and then when I graduated, it was in 1943, and then I was in the reserves. So, but when they called us all up, why, I was sent here to Shepherd Field, as I said, for 30 days, and then I went into pilot training, and then I went through the whole process and got my wings in 1944, and shortly thereafter I got married, and then I went through the various rounds, and then I went overseas and was stationed at Iwo Jima and flew escort for the B-29s over Japan until they start making night runs.
Being someone who was over there during that time in World War II, why is it so important to remember Iwo Jima for a young person like me? You know, what should I take away from that?
Well, when you go through a battle like that, or you're in a war zone or something like that, there's a camaraderie between the people that were involved in it, as opposed to just people that were in the service. But this was a special group of people, and our experiences, though I was one of just a few pilots that have been to our reunions, but many of these people were closely related to each other in their same organization or this kind of thing, and it's just well, it's just like well, a graduating class from college. When they have reunions, you see old friends there, and it's a special occasion. And when it's a life and death situation, it's more of a specialty than just going to the town and playing, or the schools playing football or doing something else. But this is a little special.
Have you enjoyed sharing these stories over the years with your family and with kids at schools and people like me?
Oh yes, I've given a number of talks in schools, and been interviewed more times than I can name, and going back as far as 1992, and a fellow down in Bowie, Cy Young, was in the Navy, and of course he was on ship just off the coast of there, but he was part of the battle zone there, and he got the idea of having a reunion of people that were involved in the Iwo Jima campaign, and then we started having these annual meetings in February.
So when you go and speak to, the kids and the reunions, what's, I guess, the number one thing you tell them when you're trying to teach someone about the Iwo Jima and World War II?
Yeah, I've tried to emphasize the tragedy of war and what it meant to so many families to lose one of the men and some women in the battles, for not only just in World War II, but in the Korean War and the other campaigns that we have had, and just to try to instill in the minds of the young people that war is no play game. It's very serious business. And we have a lot of people that have broken homes because of a soldier that died in there, or died later on of wounds that he had, or prisoners of war, this sort of thing. Many of them were captured and were in prison camps in Japan.
Once again, that was Bill English sharing his story of Iwo Jima and World War II with Inside Texoma. A special thanks to Mr. English for allowing us to speak with him. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. You just heard from Mr. Bill English, a veteran of Iwo Jima. Now I'm joined again by Barbara Pappas and Lynette Brown from the Survivors Association. Welcome back, you guys.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk more about this year's reunion. This has really become a big event for the community here in Wichita Falls, right?
Yes, it has. This year we've had quite a few businesses who have contributed some donations so that we could try and help make this a free event for our survivors, so they don't have to pay any funds, and we can help them out a little. Some of the reasons folks can't make it to the reunion is, you know, the cost is too much for them.
And now this is open to the public, so how can people register and get tickets and go about that? Because there is a process, right?
Yes, you can call any one of us, Barbara, myself, or Mr. Levy, and we can email registration forms to you. You can get them back to us. We'll have our contact numbers here for you. And everything, you need to be registered for everything because there is limited seating for stuff.
And most of it is free except for one event?
The All Forces Dinner, which is Saturday night, which is kind of a formal setting type dinner, dress clothes, church type stuff. So that is $25 per person.
And we're really honored and thrilled to have Congressman Mac Thornberry be our keynote speaker that evening.
Now, how many veterans are you anticipating being able to attend this year?
This year so far we have 20 signed up at this point. We're hoping for a few more. Like we said before, you know, each year passes and we lose some. Last year we had almost 40, so 20 right now at the moment.
Now, there is quite a bit going on. If you can only make it to one or two things, any suggestions as far as what your biggest events tend to be, what the public tends to come out for the most?
Saturday
morning, the flag,
flag raising.
Reenactment, yes.
Yes.
That's a highlight.
Yep, we do the reenactment of the raising of the flag, and Mr. Williams, the Medal of Honor recipient, he narrates it, and so it's kind of a neat thing. The Patriot Guard riders will come in, and they are awesome. They have flags lined up along the sidewalk for everybody to walk through, and they help us out a lot too. So,
as we mentioned, the 70th anniversary seems like, you know, a pretty big number to really honor, right, for Iwo Jima?
Yeah, you know, they really, when they joined the war effort during that time, they were in their late teens, maybe early 20s, and that was considered old during then. Some even snuck in at the age of 16. You know, that's just how patriotic they were in America. You know, first to be attacked the way we were, and they wanted to do something about it. So, being plus 70 years, now they're looking in their 90s now. So, we need to honor them while we still have them.
And we did mention this is the last year. Let's talk a little bit more about, you know, just your feelings surrounding that, having been so involved with it for so long.
It will be, like Barb said, it will be bittersweet. We have so many bonds that we've created through this time. My husband and I just love being involved. In fact, we have gotten our oldest daughter involved, so we've made it a family affair. And it's just amazing. I know that we'll keep in contact with a lot of these folks, and but we will miss having them here in our community and take them to events. It's fun to go out to dinner some of the nights. There are people in the community that have walked up and paid for dinners for those survivors that are here. So I think that is another reason why they like coming back to Wichita Falls every year.
Do you think the survivors as well will be a little bit bittersweet, a little bit sad to not have it as well after this year?
I think they will. You know, we kind of discussed that a little bit last year, you know, and they said, well, if you have one more, then we'll make it back. It's going to be bittersweet because this is the time that they get together from all corners of the United States. They come from all over states to come to Texas, and this is their one time out of the year that they can actually see each other face to face and remember where they were. It's like as if it were yesterday for them, and it's going to be bittersweet for everyone.
How important is it to, you know, even though this is the last year, keep that history alive, keep learning about Iwo Jima?
I think it'll rest on the shoulder of the family members a lot, you know, passing down from generation to generation and not let it be the wards be stored up in a box in an attic. It's like Lynette and I and Mr. Levy going out there and telling everyone. It's the word of mouth and keeping their story alive.
And that's another great thing about these veterans. They're bringing their grandkids with them, and these grandkids want to come and hang out with all these old people. It's great to see them, to see the same grandkids coming year after year. And we have a couple that usually comes from Colorado. Unfortunately, they're not coming this year, but they always told the grandkids, you can come as long as you're single. Once you get married, we're not bringing the spouse. So I think one or two of them kind of waited a little while before they got married so they could keep coming back.
Now, being the last year, you mentioned Mac Thornberry being your keynote speaker. Anything else big, you know, big blowout type thing for the event, you know, to make the last one really special? Or do you think it's special on its own?
I think it's special on its own. We're also trying to, we do a windshield tour on Shepherd after they do their program at school. And we're trying to, I think we've got it all figured out. We're going to have the AITs line up along Hanger Row, and they'll salute the bus as they go by. So I think that's something we've never done before. So that'll be a lot of fun, real neat.
Now, for those who may be tuned in late, I want to go over the rundown of events again so they know when they can come out. So it all starts February 12th, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's the trip to Fort Sill?
Yes.
And then where do we go from there?
Then Friday, we have opening ceremony, which starts at 9 a.m. We then have a luncheon out at the school for the survivors and their family members. We do a windshield tour of Shepherd. We come back and everybody takes a little rest, and we will do the Mavericks barbecue feed and a USO show. That'll start at 5:30. Then we go into Saturday, the flag raising, which starts at 10 o'clock. Then we have the flag raising, the trips to the North Texas Museum, which is really neat because there are a lot of things in the museum regarding Iwo Jima. Bill English has a lot of stuff in there. And Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, we'll have the Texas flyover. Saturday night is the All Forces dinner, which starts at 6:30. You will need tickets for that, and they are $25 a person. And Sunday morning is the memorial. That is at 9 a.m., and that'll end all the events.
All right, so we want everyone to get out there and register for all the events. They are all free except for the dinner, right?
Correct, on Saturday night.
Yes.
Well, are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave the viewers with about this reunion or, you know, about this moment in history, really, that we're remembering?
I think if you've always told yourself, I need to go to this, this is the year to do it, because there won't be another opportunity to do that. If you've never been, you need to come.
Yeah, come and see these great men of our greatest generation who fought for our rights and freedoms. So it's a great opportunity. You'll love it.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming on Inside Texoma today and sharing a little bit about the reunion. I'm sure it'll be emotional next week as you have the events for the final time.
It
It
will.
will be.
It will.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for tuning in. We hope you make it out to the reunion. We hope you tune in next week for Inside Texoma.